you so much again for being here with us. I've been talking to quite a few seniors who are graduating and are really looking forward to it. And the first question that I've been asking them is if they could sum up their experience of this past 4 years in one word, what word would they choose? And I'd love to hear your answer to that.
One word. I don't think I'm going to be able to do one, but I'll give you a few.
Okay.
I will say resilience. I would say community, eventful, and joy. I'm happy to unpack any of those if you'd like.
Well, joy is the theme, right,
It is.
that we've chosen for this year. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I actually carry around in my pocket every day, wherever I go, a little coin. And that coin is our, call it a challenge coin. And on one side it has joy and the kind of verse for the year. And then on the other side, Pepperdine. And I've got one for you. I'll happily give it to you as well. So you can have one. Can you catch?
Oh, maybe.
Here we go.
Thank you.
So every day as Pepperdine president is filled with joy. Most days are also fun. Not every day is fun. There are some decisions that I have to make that aren't the kind that I would want to make. There are some days that are really, really long, but at the end of the day, I go to bed with a big smile on my face and wake up with a lot of energy. So the verse of the year, I think, sums it up. Our goal is for students to be overflowing with hope that comes from joy. And the source of that hope is Christ Jesus and this Pepperdine community that honors and values faith in God. And so I would say that's, if I have to pick one of them, it's probably joy, but the others matter a lot to me. A lot of events that happened over the past 4 years.
Yeah. And in speaking to those seniors, one of the events that they all mentioned is that loss of their sophomore year to COVID. And we are pretty much back up and running. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about like the COVID recovery and you leading the university through that. What would you say is your proudest moment from that year and a half of online school?
My proudest moment, well, first let me just say to the seniors, I'm incredibly proud of them because I remember that day. I think I will always remember that day when the team that I get to work with, and I'm proud of them, immensely proud of the administrative team, where we came to the conclusion that we were going to have to make the hardest decision that I hope to ever have to make as a president, and that's to send students home. Because that's not what we wanted. That's not what they wanted. That's not where they were meant to be. They were supposed to be here in community with us. But I'm proud of the way they handled it. They had to go home not knowing for how long. And I remember I walked Dorm Road on that Sunday afternoon when we had announced this is the last day, and spent some time with families, spent some time with students, spent some time talking about how sorry I was that this is what had to be next, but looking forward to the day they returned. And that day was a lot longer into the future than we expected it to be. And to a person, I've talked with dozens, maybe even 100 current seniors when they got back. And I remember telling them, first of all, apologizing. We did not want to postpone the return another year. That was something we fought against, and we lobbied. We and other California schools lobbied the various powers that be and said, we can do this. They're doing it in Texas and Arizona and Florida and Tennessee, almost everywhere. We weren't allowed to. But when I talked to them when they got back, to a person, they said, the professors were awesome. Online school was not what we had in mind. Zoom school is what they call it. Zoom school is not what we had in mind, but the professors were awesome. The community was awesome, and we're just glad to be back, and we're looking forward. And so I would say that's what I'm most proud of, is our students. I'm also incredibly proud of the faculty members. To be told, next week, you're going to teach class online. When your lesson plans, your syllabus, all of the labs that you prepared, you can't do those anymore. You're going to be looking at a screen, and your students will too. And they rose to the challenge in ways that I don't think any of us could have predicted how well they did that.
Yeah. As a Zoom school student, I'll say that my professors are definitely one of the highlights.
Yeah.
So still looking back at that time, is there anything that you would change, if you could, about the way that Pepperdine responded to the situation, or anything that you regret about that?
I would say my biggest regret is having to make the decision that they have to go home. If we look back and say, what could we have done differently about that, about the pandemic? Man, we were ready. We were ready. We bought more plexiglass than I thought was available in California. We had more cleaning fluid. We had all of the plans. I regret that the students didn't get to study abroad. That's a transformative opportunity that our students have, that very few other students in the country have, like we have. And I regret that they didn't have that experience. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that I'd look back on and say, wow, I feel so badly for our students. But like the students, I'm looking forward. And to see them looking forward, and leading and embracing, as they walk into this next chapter, they're prepared for anything that comes at them, because they have managed the biggest social dislocation in a century. I mean, honestly, in a century, and they powered through it, and they're ready.
Absolutely. And continuing to look forward, I know that the mountain has been a big passion project for you, and that in the next 4 years there's going to be progress on that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? What can students look forward to about these next 4 years? Yeah,
there's lots to look forward to about the next 4 years. I will say the passion project for me is student community. So that's what I'm passionate about. The mountain and the mountain village, that's part of it, is the mechanism for student community life. That's what we're going for. That we're not trying to build a building or a structure or just the whole pad of the row. What we're trying to build is community, and that sometimes happens through buildings and through parking structures. So let's look forward a little bit. We'll start with the mountain, and then I'll talk about some other things. Sometime in the next few weeks is when the parking structure portion of the mountain village will begin. And that will be slow from the students' perspective. There'll be some trenching that happens. You've got to relocate utility lines. There's all sorts of things that happen underground that need to happen first. And then over the summer, it will get going in earnest. It'll be about an 18-month project. For 18 months, we'll be building this parking structure, 831 cars. I can't find a parking spot when we're done will be a vestige of the past. Remember when students used to say, I couldn't find a parking spot? 831 parking spaces there. Now, the parking that we're finishing right now behind the baseball field, that will be open over the summer as well. It would have already been open, but the torrential rain we've had, it's hard to pave something when it's raining. So that's the first part. And then 18 months, the next 18 months, it'll be a total of 3 years beginning really soon. Next 18 months is when the Student Fitness Center, and we're calling it the RISE building, the Resilience Informed Skills Education, where it's going to be a student fitness center. We've gone from 2,500 square feet to now we have 5,000 square feet at the temporary one. This will be 10,000 square feet. So I want to invite you, if you haven't seen the full-scale model of the Mountain Village, it's on the 3rd floor of Thornton, and I'll happily give you a tour of that. So it's that resilience, and then there's the student, we call it the MAC Gym Multi-Activity Court, where there will be intramurals. They'll be right there where students are. There'll be some practices, and then the arena itself, which will be in the middle of it. The arena will have a restaurant. It will have some incredible vistas. It'll have a waterfall that goes down that overlooks the soccer field and the baseball field. So that's one of the things that's happening over the next 4 years. The Chateau in Switzerland opens in July of this year, a 3-year project involving 150 local artists and artisans restoring a monument that the entire country of Switzerland was focused on last year as part of Swiss Heritage Day. This is an incredible property with so much history. The lightning rods were made by and given to them by Ben Franklin himself. And so we have this chateau. It's going to be 67 acres. It's different than any property that we have. It'll have 81 undergraduate students, 30 graduate students, a conference area. It's going to be something that is transformative of what our students are doing. And within the next 4 years, if I could say one more thing, we will be in the midst of our next campaign, the largest campaign in the history of Pepperdine, fundraising gathering to pay for the strategic plan that we've launched last year we officially launched. That is over the next till 2030, and so all of the things that are in that plan will be in full steam, including a variety of new professorships and student experiences and some other things that if you want to go into the strategic plan, you'll see all of that we're planning on doing. Most of it will be in full swing over the next 4 years.
Awesome. So maybe digging in a little bit to the strategic plan. This past year, our U.S. News ranking dropped from 49 to 55.
Right.
I was wondering if you had any insight into that drop and any hope or any plan to kind of bring us back up.
Yeah. The U.S. News, as popular news has been reporting recently, is very controversial, even and perhaps especially among those that are the highest ranked in it, because of the formula used. And that formula changes every single year. And it changes every year in ways that aren't announced in advance. Oh, we're going to change this, we're going to change that. And so we have been in a band from 2004 to 2023, this band of between 58 at our lowest and 46 at our highest. But 14 of those years have been between 50 and 55. And so we're still in that band, and there's ties. So you drop 1 point and you drop 5 or 6 spots. And so looking at the formula and what they changed and the impact it had, there's one place that really stands out, kind of that harmed us a bit. It's the graduation rate as they calculate it when it's compared to their predicted rate. So they say, here are your students coming in, their qualifications, their characteristics, et cetera. And therefore we predict this is their graduation rate. And then when your graduation rate comes in, they say, are you above or below your predicted rate? We have always been, and we continue to be above, but they have been steadily raising our predicted rate because the quality of our incoming students continues to rise. Now, when I say quality, we've always had awesome students. The credentials of our incoming students have continued to rise. And so the gap between where we actually graduate, which is very high, and where they expect us to graduate has been dropping. And this year, that was a big component of why we dropped a little bit. But we moved up in graduation retention rate, we moved up in alumni giving, we moved up in the ranking for graduate indebtedness. The critical parts of that matter, we did quite well. But let me just say one more thing. The U.S. News doesn't measure what we do and what we care about most. It doesn't measure the quality of faculty instruction, not in there. It doesn't measure the student experience. It doesn't measure your study abroad time. It doesn't measure your transformation here as a student while you're at Pepperdine. We care about U.S. News because it's a reflection on how people look at us, but we don't let it dictate or drive the decisions we make about who we are. We remain faithful to who we are. If you look at it, there's one component which is the peer assessment score, which is what other schools around the country, how they bubble you 1 to 5. In 2020, we reached the highest we've ever reached on that peer assessment score. And it stayed the same. It's gone up and up and up and up, and we're still there. So how we're seen around the world is still, it's as high as it's ever been. But there's some odd factors in there that change every year, and so are we looking at it? Of course. Will we try to maximize how we rank? Yes, but not if it matters even a little bit to our mission. We're not going to compromise at all for somebody else's rankings.
And for you, as president of Pepperdine, as the 8th president of Pepperdine, what do you hope for your legacy to be when people talk about, Jim Gash? What do you want them to say about you?
Oh, I don't think about that much. I try to think about what's happening right now, trying to ensure that students feel like they belong, trying to make sure that the students have the facilities and the funding necessary to create a resilient community. That's a huge part of it. Maybe I'll say if when I'm done, whenever that is, we look back and we say, that's when Pepperdine's focus on student resilience began and magnified. And as a result, the students graduating here left with more confidence and more character and more ability to handle difficulty and failure and hard times. That would be a great legacy to look back on. I think it's also Pepperdine became even more committed to its core values, became the best version of its truest self. I didn't change anything. I'm not looking to change who Pepperdine is. I came here because of who Pepperdine was. I have stayed because of who Pepperdine is. I took this position because I felt like this was an opportunity for me to continue the ascent upward. My 7 predecessors, every single one of them moved Pepperdine to a higher level on this mountain we're climbing. And when it's time for me to hand the baton to the next person, my hope is that people can look back and say, we're higher up the mountain, and there's still more to climb. The day I started this job, the day before I started this job, I met with President Benton in his office. We talked, we laughed, we prayed, and then he handed me the baton, which was George Pepperdine's Bible. And when it's time for me to hand that baton to the next leader, it's going to be George Pepperdine's Bible, and that will be a sign that we have been faithful to who we are.
That's a really beautiful symbol of our mission in our school. So to your seniors,
yes,
this is the class that's been with you since when they started, you started.
Yep.
So how do you feel about that, and what do you have to say to them as they're approaching graduation?
Yeah. I will say to them, I get to speak at graduation. There will be a distinguished alum and some other folks speaking, but I will have my opportunity to tell. This is going to be really hard that day. It's hard enough right now, but it's going to be real hard that day, just to tell them how proud I am of them. That they came here with these high hopes of doing all of the things that they wanted to do, including studying abroad, including so many things that would have happened during those 18 months that they were away. And yet, here they are. They have made it, and as I said earlier, they are ready for anything. There isn't anything that they will walk into saying, I don't know what to do, this is too hard, because they've already done that. So I think mostly just proud of them, and over the next 4 years, watching the impact they will have in their communities, in their lines of work, in their churches, in their, around the world. Pride is the main emotion I will feel.
Is there anything that maybe I haven't asked you that you feel like is important to share with the community about the past 4 years, looking forward? Anything else that you want to add?
Yeah. Oh, hundreds of things. I will say, come to the President's briefing on Wednesday. We will have an important announcement that I believe will be a sign of an important next step in alumni relations. We will be announcing the next leader of university alumni relations, and I think the community will be very excited about that announcement. I will say I'm looking forward to the next 4 years. The way Pepperdine has chosen to do it, my first term was 3 years, but then last year I got a 5-year term, and so 4 more years, but it was 3 and 5. I look forward to spending more time with them, being able to be with them in person that we missed that 18 months apart. I look forward to all of the things that they are going to do to improve student life and show people what it looks like to be a member of a community that honors God and helps students become their truest sense of what God's called them to be.
Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate you coming
my
down to
pleasure.
CCB.
Thank you.
Yeah.
God bless you.